I think everybody's got a good idea in them. It's a whole open-minded approach to investment. You look after them both and you nurture them, making sure that you have clarity and cohesion as a region.
Hello and welcome to The Northeast Edge, the name of our podcast, brought to you by Newcastle University Business School with me, visiting Professor of Innovation and Enterprise, Charlie Holt, and co-host, Dr. Fiona Whitehurst, Associate Dean of Engagement and Place. We're both interested in regeneration, social impact, and growing the Northeast economy from the edge of England and looking for those gems in the region that have an edge. So we're bringing a series of guests into the studio, and in this case, the studio to our guests, to talk about the region, past, present, and future. So welcome, Irene.
Morning, and thank you.
So I'll just give a little introduction to Dame Irene. Dame Irene's one of the Northeast's most significant business figures, owner and chair of Hays Travel, the UK's largest independent travel agency. Hays was founded by John Hays in 1980 from the back of his mother's children's wear shop in Seaham. But Irene built a major career of her own in public service, becoming chief executive of both South Tyneside Council and Sunderland City Council, before moving into senior Whitehall roles. She's chaired Hays Travel, where we are this morning in their gorgeous offices, since 2009, and after leaving central government in 2012, joined John more directly in running and growing the business. The business became nationally famous. It was always famous in the Northeast, but nationally famous in 2019, when John and Irene bought the entire Thomas Cook retail estate, 555 shops, after Thomas Cook collapsed, creating re-employment for opportunities for up to 2,500 former staff. This episode is about entrepreneurship, public service, Sunderland, resilience and loyalty. It asks about the regeneration of Sunderland that Irene is so proud about, how the company copes with constant shocks in the global travel industry, and what Dame Irene thinks about talent, apprenticeship, succession, and the next chapter of a family-rooted Northeast business. All in an hour.
Plenty to go at. What are your earliest memories of the business, Hays business?
Probably the decision-making about which business to go into. So at the time, John had come back to the Northeast, had a very short career in the city, didn't like it at all, and decided he wanted to start a business. So the two businesses he looked at were undertaker and travel agent, and thank goodness he chose the last one, because I'm telling you that conferences would have been one heck of a lot different. And as he did that, those two primarily, his dad was a joiner in the colliery, and as I said, there was no money in the family. And his mother had a baby wear shop in Church Lane in Seaham in County Durham. And he wanted something where his dad could help him with the business. So his dad was either going to make the coffins or build a counter, which was pretty much like a fish and chip shop counter, really quite high. And people came in and booked the holidays while standing up. And those garden trellises. Yes. His dad put a garden trellis to separate the baby grows and the pants and the socks and frilly frocks. And people used to click their cardies on the way past. And he also built a brochure rack. That's how the business started. And they're my early memories at the time around the decision making.
Were you working in the shop as well at that point?
Absolutely not. No, but I knew the business well. And I knew, having come back to the Northeast to work in 1977 in Sunderland, it wasn't a city then, it was a Sunderland Borough Council then. And so I knew the business very well, and I knew John very well. And at that pivotal moment, as the story went on, it was incredibly challenging because the sales of UK holidays were going well, and Butlins and Pontons were going well. But John wanted to branch out into foreign travel. And for that to happen, he needed to be bonded with ABTA, the Association of British Travel Agents. And for that to come to pass, it required an inspection. So the application form was filled in, and an inspector came from ABTA to have a look at the premises and went away and typed a letter and said, no, you can't have the license to operate because you're not really a travel agency. You're really a baby wear shop. And you don't even have your own entrance. So we wrote back and said, is that it? It's because we don't have our own. And they wrote back and said, yes. We said, well, it's come to our attention that there's this shop in London called Harrods. And in the back, they've got a travel agency called Thomas Cook. Please explain the difference. And they said, oh, go on then.
Wow. And the rest is history. And how many branches are you now?
507, but we are not as big in retail as we were in terms of a percentage of the overall business, although people still believe that we are. But we do obviously have branched out into home working after COVID. Home working exploded because when people had to stay at home, they fell in love with their dogs and their gardens and not having to do the commute in the morning. And we had many talented people who just didn't want to come 9 to 5 and work on Saturdays and Sundays anymore. So home working has exploded for us and is now a significant part of our business. We have about 740 home workers all across the country. In addition to that, Hays Travel is passionate about entrepreneurs, and we support and nurture and do the back office for 124 independent businesses across the UK and outside. So we have had business in India, in Athens, in Spain, and all of the back offices, it happens where you're sitting now. So
here in Sunderland, yes.
Here in Sunderland, yes.
What do you mean by doing the back office for a business in India? That's not on the phones selling holidays, or is it the accounts?
They were. Actually, they grew to such an extent that they're now doing all of their own back office, which is a pattern that I think is a very good one. That as you'll both know, it is those early stages for an entrepreneur which are the most challenging, where you simply don't have the capacity in-house to be able to do all of the functions. So what I mean by back office is that we carry out the purchasing, so we get economies of scale by including them in the commercial negotiations with our suppliers. We do all of the supplier payments, which are arduous when you're independent, and we operate on pretty much a daily basis with about 400 suppliers, if you think about all the different types of holidays. We also help them with many other things, including investment. So if they want to expand, we will invest in them. If they want to open a new store, if they need some tech, if they want to do a TV advert, we will fund that and support them and wrap our arm around them until they reach a scale, if they want to reach a scale, that they can go off and do those things themselves. But I'm very, very proud of the Independence Group and the work that it does today. And we have had some notable successes with young entrepreneurs who started with us and are now, for example, Love Holidays, started with Hays Travel until they reached that point where they could go off and do that on their own. So I think people assume that we're just retail, but we also do online website, and we have a substantial foreign exchange business too.
And is the online share significant of the business? Because you said that there's a sense that Hays is a high street business. And there was that challenge with Thomas Cook and their estate of shops, and but you've managed to navigate the death of the high street as well as the growth of internet and presumably the home workers.
Absolutely, and obviously since we came out of COVID, I have bought 11 more companies, and the focus there, for example, last year I bought the second largest online cruise operator in the UK, a company called cruise.co.uk. And I also bought a German online company, which is significant and doing very, very well.
Because you're going into the German market, or because they're...
I'd like to understand the German market, and the easiest way to do that was to buy a business. So you either go and start from scratch. And this, the acquisition that I made in November of last year of Cruise.co combines the opportunity to learn, which I think is crucial when you're running a business, particularly in the largest industry in the world. So travel is the largest industry in the world. And if you're not current and you're not learning and understanding AI and everything else means, then you will go backwards and others will take that space. So the only two ways to grow, as you know, in business are either organically or acquisitively. And I have chosen, in the main, acquisitively since COVID, to redress the balance to a degree between retail and online.
Yes.
Because your earlier comments are quite, they were correct in that online is increasing. And in general, face-to-face is decreasing. And that has been the picture, I would say, for the last 15, 16 years.
What's the core then? Is it the core of Hays? Is it good advice? Trusting that you'll get a good holiday, or speaking to people, because you said there's a lot of home workers, even though they're not in shop. Is that what your sort of core piece is?
I think trust, value, and knowing that somebody will look after them when things go wrong. And in the travel industry, if I think of everything that we've had to confront over the years, if you take ash clouds, volcanoes erupting, tsunamis, insurgencies in the Yemen, wars in various different places. I'm just sitting here waiting for the swarm of locusts, really. And
I see mice in Australia.
We had that small bump in the road called COVID. So increasingly, if people are making a complex or high value or emotional booking, they will book with a travel agent, and they know that if you take the latest situation in the Middle East, that if they're stuck in Dubai in the middle of the night, they will not have to ring us to tell us that they're stuck in Dubai, when we will have already had a look at alternative options, and they will hopefully be the first person to be contacted. In fact, I've got a letter upstairs from a couple who were 58 in the queue at the Emirates desk in Dubai airport. And we rang them and said, run to departure gate 85. We've got you on the next.
Wow, yes.
So which would take them back away from the Middle East while it was still possible to do that. Clearly there have been cases where it hasn't been. And those people have had to be repatriated at a later stage. But I think all of the things that you mentioned, Charlie, they're all about trust and belief that we will have their back.
And that would be whether they booked online or in one of the high street stores.
That's right. But I think a lot of people book online and are not likely to speak to the same person twice. If you've given Mary on the high street where you live the privilege of booking your holiday for you, you can be assured that Mary or one of her colleagues will know exactly where you are and what is happening, and just will be there to navigate what is a very challenging landscape if you're stuck somewhere else in the world and you don't know how to get back, or you're poorly, or something else happens.
And you mentioned at the Net 250 Awards, you were honoured with the Outstanding Achievement Award, which was very well deserved. But you mentioned then about Hays's relationship with Emirates and the support to get Emirates to come into Newcastle. I don't know if you're happy to talk about that.
We were just that primarily, I think that win was for One North East, and probably I would say for Margaret Fay. Yeah. So she was instrumental in bringing Emirates, but as a company, we had always wanted a route to the east, to a major hub in the east, and Emirates have created that over the years. We still would really like a destination to the west. We are badly served from our region, and it's really important. However, the numbers didn't stack up. We got very close, but Bristol was chosen over Newcastle. But we were asked, if Emirates were to come to Newcastle Airport, would you support them? And we said, with bells on, and we have.
Mm-hmm. So Hays Travel is obviously huge numbers of people here. I've heard you talk also about how you grow your people and how you've done a lot of growing within and training and taking people from any background and making sure that they float to the top if they have talent.
Yeah.
Can you talk us through some of the examples of that or your sort of philosophy?
I suppose the reason why it happened was when I came back to Sunderland, I was put on, suppose if I was talking in Whitehall terms, it would be fast streamers. I went into a leadership program in Sunderland, and it was necessary for me to understand HR. And I was working one morning in a transport depot in Hendon.
This is when you were working for the Sunderland Council?
Yeah.
Yes.
When I came back into Sunderland. And we were doing a final interview for an YTS, if you remember YTS.
Youth Training Scheme.
Yeah.
Yes.
And all of the iterations that have come since then. And he drank too much, couldn't get out of bed in the morning. Anyway, came in with his mentor, he was called Gary, and came in with his mentor, Ted. And they sat down in a small office with the depot supervisor, the HR person and me, and Gary and Ted. And the HR person said, well, you know, Gary, she said, you've had an informal warning, you've had a formal warning, you've had a written warning, you've had a final written warning. And today, unfortunately, and Ted went, hang on a minute, just hang on a minute. He said, I'm telling you, this lad is really talented. If you give him one more chance, just one more chance, I'm telling you, I'll go and get him up in the morning if I have to. And the HR person said, well, he's had every chance. And so Ted went on. Anyway, she said, go and sit in the canteen and I'll come and get you. So off they trudged. And she looked to the supervisor and said, what do you think? And the supervisor said, well, he's had every chance. This lad's had every chance. You know, I'm not doubting that he's talented, but, you know, what can you do? And she turned to me and she said, and what do you think? And I said, I love Ted. I absolutely love him. Can we not just give Gary one more chance? Anyway, cut a long story short, she got them back in and she tore a strip off Gary and said, this is absolutely the last chance. And the only reason you're being given a last chance is because of your mentor. And off they went. Anyway, I bumped into Ted at the Civic Centre, the old Civic Centre in Sunderland. And he said, Irene, he said, do you know Gary? I said, yeah. He said, after you'd done the interview, he said, I went round the back of the depot and Gary was leaning against the back with his head on his arm, sobbing his heart out. And Ted said, what's wrong with you, like? Have you never had a telling off? And Gary said, oh, yes, I've had lots of telling off in my life, but nobody's ever stuck up for me before.
Oh.
So since then, that was my epiphany. And we came back and have had YTS and whatever they were called at the given time. And last year we employed 631 apprentices and 32 graduates. And we have people peppered across the organisation who've been with us since those very early days. And in fact, when John died on the 13th of November 2020, over the weekend, I rang a young man called Jonathan Woodall, as he was then. He's Jonathan Woodall Johnson now. And said to him, I am not sure I can do this and I'm not sure you can either, but I would like to give you the opportunity. But I'm telling you, if neither of us can do it, we've got too many people's livelihoods depending upon us. So will you work with me if I come in or take the position and run Hays Travel? And he said, may I think about it? And I said, of course. Jonathan started his career with us when he was 16 years of age, and he has worked in pretty much every single department of Hays Travel.
Yes.
And
how old is he now?
Has been. Oh God, that's a good question.
In his 40s, 50s?
No, he's 35. He's going to kill me. 35.
Yes, well.
Oh, he's still very young.
Yeah. Yes,
but
yes.
If you walk around the offices, they're all very young.
Yeah.
They're just like, it's like, and it today, if you are running a business and you're not employing young people who know more about social media and TikTok and digital than you will ever know, because they've played around with it since they were babies. I cannot understand how businesses cannot work, because that marriage of experience and youth and their absolute innate understanding of what makes a good TikTok. Mm-hmm. You know, you can write all the style guides you like. Jane, my PR person, goes, oh God, the grammar's awful and this is awful and it's making me cringe. And I went, yeah, but it works, doesn't it?
Just going back to that, taking on the 631 apprenticeships and all the talk about apprenticeship starts are dropping. You took over 30 graduates. There's talk about, obviously, pains me that more and more people are thinking that a degree is, I think a third of the people, it was said recently, don't think that a degree is worth the time and the money. How you do definitely keep that faith in young people, don't you, with the apprenticeships and the taking on the graduates? So what would you sort of suggest for all this issue with, and I hate the term, but people not otherwise not in education,
employment or training,
or training, the
needs.
Not in education, employment or training. Yeah, I think for me a combination is the best thing. I really do. I believe earning and learning gives people a sense of self-worth, and that the sooner that happens in one way or another. So I do believe in graduates, and clearly I do.
Yeah.
Not to the extent of apprenticeships. So I can go out upstairs now with you and I can show you 100 people who didn't have a degree and who can operate their part of the travel business better than anybody else in the industry. So I'm a passionate believer in understanding how to work not just around what the technical skills are, but culturally. You'll feel that, hopefully. I invest a lot of time in the culture of the organisation. Nobody in Hays Travel is any better than anybody else. Nobody. And last year, when we hit 3 billion turnover, everybody in the company got £100 for every year that worked for us.
Wow.
Yeah.
Irrespective of whether you were the fantastic folk who look after us, keeping the place clean and doing all sorts of other meet and greet things, and, or whether you're the finance director, everybody got the same, because the culture is built around the core values, as I think all good businesses should be, and those core values haven't really changed.
What is the total headcount now? You mentioned the grad numbers and things, but just short of 5,000. Wow, yes.
Across the country, yeah. But the induction and the way that we talk about the way that we work with each other and respect each other and the values and behaviours which are most important to us is vitally important. And this whole sort of lifelong learning and me being sent off to Berlin to understand artificial intelligence, I came back and the only thing I understood was I don't have enough years left to understand artificial intelligence.
You went to Berlin to do artificial intelligence and came back with a cruise company, did you?
But it was on my performance agreement that I needed to go and do that thing. So the whole continuous learning thing. But that all starts from what the vision of a company is and the values of the company, and then the short-term objectives. And if that golden thread doesn't exist within a company, then the people at the bottom of that golden thread are unclear about what they're doing or what they stand for. So we believe passionately in that. We also believe, though, that if you get people in when they're young, they're not going to come with any bad habits from anywhere else. And I know that's a really Ashingtonian expression, but it is an Ashingtonian expression, which is where I was brought up. So it's sounds quite posh, doesn't it? But only an
you're following our other Ashington alumni, Sir John Hall, who we interviewed a couple of days ago as well, and he had a lot to teach us, as you, from his time in Ashington.
Yeah.
But I think you can see. So I came on the metro this morning, sort of found my way through the Bridges Shopping Centre, and as people are coming into the office, they're chatting, and reception's lovely. There's a real buzz, and you were saying that there are about 450 people here, and they're in the central office. We're in this
one,
gorgeous
and I've got another
central office.
60 around the corner in our original office we grew out of. So, and they're all developers. So they work like at 3:00 in the morning and have pizza and Red Bull. So you go in and it's like basically pizza and Red Bull all the way.
But it is a lovely atmosphere. And as you say, that must come from that golden thread.
Yeah. And for us, the measurement of behaviours and contribution to team and helping others to succeed. So I'll show you our training suite, but unsurprisingly, and I will definitely not sing this again, our values are SMILE. We need to be supportive, motivational, innovative. We believe it's not just an entrepreneur at the top of the organisation who can innovate. It needs to run through and be embedded within the organisation. So supportive, motivational, innovative, loyal, hence the £100 for every single person, irrespective of what job they do, and excellent. And they haven't really changed much. We've tweaked the language a little bit, but that induction, and people are measured on those. Are you supportive? We don't like glory boys and girls. We like people who help other people to get better, particularly around our apprenticeship schemes. So our store managers can't be successful unless they can produce good apprentices. That's supportive. Equally, the ability to do all of the other things. And I think being explicit about that, what that means. And then on the performance appraisal, the section around behaviour holds as much weight as the section, are you good at doing the banking? Are you good at selling holidays?
So we talked about people. Have you also, and you talked about innovation, with this 5,000 people, you must have built processes as well.
Yeah.
And the travel industry and the sort of digitization of choice must have meant that you had to respond and build around that.
Yes.
Has that been one of your core pieces that you've been involved with?
Yes. I think, obviously, through my various careers, I've been involved in lots of technology, particularly in relation to advanced manufacturing and automotive industry. When I was working to help onshore the supply chain for Nissan, primarily out of Japan, but USA as well. And the adoption of technology across the piece is crucial, absolutely crucial. But very often the answers to the set question, one of my favourite books is called Just Let the Dog See the Rabbit. Don't try and describe what the rabbit looks like in business. Just let the dog see the rabbit and come up with a solution for catching it. Don't say, grab it by its back left paw and sink your teeth into its throat and don't let it run off. And we do that regularly around innovation. So one particular example would be someone who works in our foreign exchange support team. And she believed that the system that we had for reordering foreign exchange for the stores across the country was very costly because it was one dominant supplier who does that. Well, maybe a couple. And she came up with a solution, a technological solution for how that could be done. She didn't know how to build it herself. So we told her to describe to the developers what it was that she was trying to achieve. And I think that one decision by her and bringing it to us saved us £345,000 a year.
Wow. Yes.
In technology charges. But during COVID, we did a lot of that. And I think I love innovation in terms of creating the environment in which innovation can succeed, and they don't all. So as you can imagine, we have some wacky ideas, but I think it was Charles Brower, who said, if you have two plant pots side by side and they've both got little green shoots in them, how do you tell which one is the flower and going to flourish and be beautiful, and which one's going to be the weed that you want to kill off as soon as you possibly can? And the only answer to that is that you look after them both and you nurture them and you create the best environment for them to succeed. And in the fullness of time, you will find out which is the fantastic idea and which is the one that you need to let go of. And then, in the words of Alex Ferguson, if you're going to fail fast.
Yeah. So do you have that's part of the culture, and it's one of the Smile values. Do you have an innovation team, or is everyone tasked with innovation?
Everybody innovates.
Yeah.
And everybody has the opportunity to be rewarded for innovating. If they come up with a good idea, they'll just be rewarded for that. But it is embedded. And I really do believe around innovation, none of us is as clever as all of us. So to think that the entrepreneur at the top of an organisation has the monopoly on the ability to do that, I think is maybe wrong-minded, and means that you're not harnessing the talent of everybody in the organisation. Because I think everybody's got a good idea in them.
And if you're close to the action, you can see how that,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, because it's often the person who's dealing with that little problem day by day who will come up with the solution, because nobody else has seen that there is a problem. Or other people have seen there's a problem, but not
just
had
say,
the gumption to...
That's the way the world is. And in this particular case, Nicola got tired of it and said, I'm sick of this. If only they did that, and that. It would be so much better. And the other thing about innovation is that I don't think that it's necessary to create an island off the coastline with a brand new idea. It's not necessary. All you need to do is colour in the coastline a bit. So if you think Hoover and Dyson, Hoover innovated, Dyson just coloured in. It's still a vacuum cleaner, and it's still fundamentally the same tech with current engineering solutions applied to it. But what it does is the same as a vacuum cleaner does. It just does it better. What Nicola did was said, we had a system, however, we need to innovate and be better. So I'm a passionate believer in innovation, and I love it, and which is why I like listening to young entrepreneurs when they come in and pitch.
Can we talk about the Northeast as a region? Because we're all,
Yes.
So when did... I just need to get a bit of a hold on. So when you say you came back to the Northeast, had you been in London as well?
Yeah, so I worked in London from Monday to Thursday, and then we would meet up for the weekend wherever Sunderland were playing.
Are you pleased about Sunderland getting into Europe?
Pleased would be a bit of an understatement. Come on. I mean,
more pleased than finishing above Newcastle and beating them twice.
I have to say, I am a really proud regionalist, and I wanted Middlesbrough back in as well.
Yes, you were talking about the Vaux site and how that came to be developed.
That's sent right in the middle of the city here, as a blocker for how the city could develop its offer for offices.
In this particular space, yes, but there are solutions, and I quite like deal making. But I think that the regeneration that's gone on in Sunderland, I would say in the past 8-9 years, it's nothing short of phenomenal. And I think that's a tribute to the leadership in Sunderland, both the executive leadership in Patrick Mealier, but also the current political leader. And you have to have that. If one or t'other is misaligned, then it just won't happen. They also have an incredibly talented director of regeneration in Peter McIntyre. And what they've got is a team who have just driven the regeneration, not just, everybody sees that large visible sign of that somewhere is being regenerated, but across the city as a whole. And it's a whole open-minded approach to investment. I think which hasn't been seen in this region in this way, or with this energy, or with this pace. So
you were
very,
the chief exec of Sunderland before
I was,
that.
but this isn't.
But you laid some foundations. Will you claim some credit for that? How long were you chief exec yourself?
No, I was there for 25 years. But,
yes.
But I was chief executive for a very small. And no, I'm not taking any credit for it. The credit is due to the leadership who have driven that forward. Absolutely. So it's really important to get all of those things lined up and to have the confidence and bravery to make sure that the investors believe in what is happening. Obviously, when I was in Whitehall, I had regeneration in my portfolio, so I went in as Director General for Community and Regeneration. I spent some time as Permanent Secretary too.
This is national.
This is
issues.
national.
Yes,
I had the Thames Gateway. I had the Queen Elizabeth Park for the Olympic Games. So a big regeneration projects. Again, working politically, particularly in the Olympic boroughs, because it was spread across all of the East End of London boroughs, and there were lots of political differences. But I think that having an absolute clear vision and the confidence and being able to tell a compelling story about place and what it stands for. It goes back to this having a vision that people buy into and believe in. So when you're standing in front of the big investors in the UK or in Europe, they say, we trust in these people, they know what they're doing, and they'll deliver. And Sunderland have delivered. So,
can you see? I was involved in trying to do something in the police station, and so worked locally for some time. And coming back today, you can see the progress in terms of the built environment, and the high street is busy and full, which compared to 3-4 years ago, it was much quieter. Are there stats that you can point to in terms of how it's lifted?
I don't have any stats. I'm now sort of several years away from it, but I can tell you that the best barometer in any town or city of how well it's doing is the taxi drivers. This is not empirical. However, the taxi drivers say, Sunderland's doing all right, isn't it?
Good, yeah.
And we are. And I think it comes together, our university. I talk about the tapestry of place, and that you cannot just have one thread in the tapestry, otherwise it wouldn't be a tapestry at all. And the combination of football club, which has huge impact on the overall well-being. There's lots of, worthy pieces being written about the impact that it has on basic tribalism and place to go and escape. So when that's performing well, there's a natural sense of uplift. But the performance of the local authority and the performance of the university and how well they all align together. And they do. The people in Sunderland, I would say the same for our hospitals. Our hospitals are extraordinary. And the leadership in our hospital is extraordinary. And because they're such a big employer, having all of those people in the same place all being able to articulate a view makes such a difference. Because in many places it doesn't work. I mean, I had the privilege of working with Howard Bernstein in Manchester.
Yes, wow.
I did the Man City Stadium for them when I was on Sport England. So again, the lovely Trevor Brooking asked if I'd go and do that one, and Wembley. But anyway, let's not go back. But anyway, with Howard Bernstein was fantastic at getting everybody lined up and all of the ducks in the row, so that there's no side comments about, well, that'll never happen, or this isn't going to work.
But in Sunderland also, in the alignment is also with some significant beacon employers, Hays as well, Tombola, Leighton Group. That must help, that you all see the vision and you've moved your office to be on Keele Square. Is it part of the tapestry of Sunderland?
It is. And I think the business voice is listened to in Sunderland, and I hope, always has. We've always had a good reputation, and always had a good reputation, particularly and surprisingly more from international investors. Sunderland was always used as the example for inward investment in the UK.
Yes.
They would point to Sunderland primarily because of the work that was done behind the scenes after Nissan, as I say, to try and onshore the supply chain primarily, which was very
You've been
exciting.
involved in that as well?
Yes. And that was part of the role when I came back to be chief executive, because that happened just after Brexit. And at that point, it was unclear what would happen and how that would play out. So then they knew that I'd been involved in the earlier stages before I'd gone off to South Tyneside and before I'd gone off to Whitehall. So came back and had the privilege of working with the team and had some notable successes. I suppose Vantec is the one I'm most...
That's part of this. How big is the Nissan supply chain in terms of employment here, or is it turnover of economic activity?
I think that if you were, this data will be stale, so I wouldn't rely on it. But when I was doing the pitch, the Nissan and the supply chain would be responsible for approaching 19,000 jobs.
Wow.
In one way or another.
Yeah.
So Nissan don't do back office themselves. They use it. So it's not just engineering, advanced manufacturing that are benefiting from Nissan and the supply chain, because they all tend to.
And what is Vantec as part of that? It's one of the parts manufacturers.
So no, Vantec does the logistics, but just in time delivery. But now they've grown phenomenally and hugely successfully, and now providing services, for example, to Rolls-Royce.
Right.
So it is a success story, and probably the Keele Square bit is the most visible. But there has been lots of work over the years done by many people to build, as you said, the platform to make that success possible, and have that vision developed and brought to now fruition for everybody to see.
And you say, to extend the tapestry analogy, Sunderland is part of the Northeast. We're representing Newcastle University here, and there's the relationship between the rivers, the bigger cities on the rivers, the different industries around.
Yes.
What lessons have you got from your time in Whitehall about how our region, the broader region, can keep going? I think we all feel the region is itself done well, with Sunderland as a component part of it. Yeah. But you can't rest.
No. And I think there is still work to do. If you walk around Manchester today, and as I say, I had the privilege of working with Howard when he was alive. It is analogous to the clarity that you require in business. You need to have that overarching vision. What are we about? What is it that we stand for? How are we going to go about doing this? And what exactly are we going to do in the next 3 to 5 years? And what is it that needs to shift? So Fiona earlier mentioned, barriers to success, and the A19 roundabout, Tesco's roundabout as it's known locally, was always a bottleneck to progress. And Nissan constantly revisits how they will ship the cars that they produce in the Washington factory, constantly market testing that. And this bottleneck is a real issue when you're trying to transport goods from factory to port.
Mm-hmm.
And
because a lot of the cars here go for export.
Well, they do. The reason, one of the reasons why the factory was built in Washington, and one of the reasons why we have our own car-carrying factory ship, which I went over to launch in Japan. It's another long story.
We've got some tales to...
Yes, it is, I think, about making sure that you have clarity and cohesion as a region. And do you know, if there's one region that should have that, it should be us. But unless you get all the political and executive leaders and business leaders to sign up to an overarching vision, which is the purpose of the LEP.
Yes.
So,
or the combined authority.
And now the mayoral strategic authority.
Yes.
So,
yes.
and you know, if you can, lots of people reference Andy Burnham, and why wouldn't they? So again, having been involved in the early stages of the combined authority in Manchester, they all, whether or not they agreed in private, is another matter. What I would say is, the clearer the picture looks, the clearer the narrative, and the clarity about what needs to shift, just going back to the flyover that we brought forward 19 years, so that the Tesco's roundabout was due to be refurbished at enormous cost 19 years hence, because the programme of infrastructure works in the Department of Transport, but others as well, is so great. Being clear about what needs to shift in order that we can succeed. What are the enhancers to progress, and what are the barriers to progress? And just be really, really clear and stop changing the story. Because when you're sitting in Whitehall and you have 353 local authorities, as I did at the time, you can't. It needs to be legible and simple, and you need everybody who has anything to do with that place to be singing from the same hymn sheet.
So that one roundabout, as you were saying before, took 11 minutes off the transfer time from a car to get onto a ship out to and the parts the other way.
And that then gave the Port of Tyne, which is a shared, so all of the riparian authorities who are on the banks of
riparian
the Port of Tyne, riverbank,
yes,
have ownership of the river,
land, yes,
and have a responsibility for it. I felt a responsibility for the Port of Tyne to make them have competitive advantage. 11 minutes, if you are running a logistics operation, is a big competitive advantage. But you have to know how to make that work and how to unblock.
Because it would be 11 minutes on 20 minutes, so it's like halving the time or something like that, or taking a third off the time of that.
Yeah.
Back and forth.
And we did that.
But you had to tell Whitehall, we want the blooming roundabout repaired.
Well, no, I mean, everybody tells them that. No, you have to come up with you have to come up with really, not we want. Everybody wants.
Right.
Has to be absolutely.
And it was a tens of millions of pounds infrastructure investment. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so how did you nail it then?
It's I suppose having the right voice in the room is vitally important. And sometimes it's the leader of an organisation or the chief executive of an organisation. And I say this all the time, that there are several thousand people more qualified than I am to talk about how to sell a holiday. There's no question about that. Very often, you don't put the person with the passion and the belief and the knowledge and the granular detail in front of the right politician at the right time, with the right argument, with the right data. So it can't be breathless. It can't just be froth. It has to be evidence-based. And coming from Whitehall, I would say that. Evidence-based policy, evidence-based decisions for first of all, your minister and then your Secretary of State. So understanding how that works, I suppose, had an advantage.
Mm-hmm.
But I believe that getting the right voice to put forward that proposition, which is what I did.
Mm-hmm.
And he's now actually gone to work for Durham. But he totally understood the importance to Nissan. He totally understood the importance of competitive advantage. But mostly he understood transport infrastructure.
Mm-hmm.
And you had lots of transport wallahs on the call with the Secretary of State and the Minister when we did the final. You really have to do this. It's imperative that you do this and that you do it now. Anyway, we got it in 2 years instead of 19.
Wow.
Instead of 19. So it's a bit about, it has to be evidence-based in all of the things I've talked about. But there has to be somewhere a reason why you are going to
leapfrog those 350 other asks in other places. Yes.
At least 350.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's 20,000 jobs. It's a hub for Europe.
That's right.
Yeah.
So obviously one of the audiences for this podcast is current students, recent alumni, not just of Newcastle University, but of other universities. What advice would you give to somebody just starting off in their career if they had gone to university?
The first thing is you must be useful. You must be useful from day one. And people must see that you are keen to learn and understand how to do that. Now, that might start off by making the tea or saying, can I add up those figures and can I do this? And would you show me how? But I suppose having just spoken at another university, an inquisitive mind from day one is something that we look for in our apprentices and our graduates, and we tell them that. And if they are going to be successful, they listen. An inquisitive mind means that you learn from the person that you're working with, that you learn from any additional training that you have, but you put in the hard yards by evidencing to the people you're working with that you've done extra research and you have done something that others haven't. There are lots of people in the world who are trying to succeed. In Hays Travel, people are successful if they're helpful to each other, going back to the values, and they are helpful to achieving the overall vision of the company, which is to be the most profitable independent travel agency in the UK through valuing its people, its customers, and the community where it operates. So be inquisitive, be helpful, but fundamentally be useful and demonstrate that you can do this job. You have a desire to do this job really, really well. The other thing is be a great team player. Help somebody else if they're down. Everybody has a bad day, not just at the office, but at home. And in Hays Travel, we actually place as much attention on those types of behaviours as we do on the ability of somebody to produce a set of accounts or sell a holiday. Mm-hmm. So it's about who you are as an individual. The other thing I would say is make sure you make a good pick at the outset. Do some research about the company that you're going to work for. If you have a value system which is at odds with the people or the place where you work, you'll have a horrendous time. Mm-hmm. You will be short-lived and you will not lead a happy and fulfilled life. My ambition is somebody who leads an organisation, because we spend a lot of time at work, is to create opportunities where we have a lot of fun. We dress up at the drop of a hat. We have a party on any day of the week that has a Y in it. And we look after each other and have lots of opportunities for people to look after each other. Be that person. Be that person who will, if somebody else is struggling, give them a helping hand up as well. Mm-hmm. Give them the opportunity to shine, not just yourself. So to be a well-rounded person, but never forget the inquisitiveness. Mm-hmm. And I realise that's not very sophisticated, but that's what I believe and that's what I've seen now here for 46 years.
Yep.
Wow.
That's worked here and it shows. Now we've just got
Quickfire
quickfire
questions.
questions.
What is one Northeast phrase, habit, or attitude that you love?
Oh, okay. All right then. Well, it has to come from Ashington, I'm
Yep.
afraid. And it's anybody who was being pompous or stating something obvious. In Ashington, we would say, get away. And it suddenly deflates even the most pompous person in the room.
I'll try that one. What is one thing outsiders misunderstand about the Northeast?
Usually that we are small town hicks, because we probably have an accent like mine and they don't. And it has been perceived for hundreds of years as being a place where industry and dirty stuff gets done, and we're not. And that's very often useful for me. So I'm not sure I want that to change anytime soon.
So what advice would you give your 21-year-old self?
Have more fun. No, that's impossible for me because I have had a lot of fun. Don't sweat the small stuff. Life is too short, and the number of times I have fretted and worried myself about something that I thought was going to happen the following day, and it hasn't actually happened. And I get into bed that night and think, wow, what was I doing thinking about that? So don't sweat the small stuff. Can I have another one?
Yes, yes, yeah.
Yeah, if you make a mistake, own up. And the quicker you own up, the better it'll be.
Mm-hmm.
And before you own up, think of a way of putting it right. And I can think of when I've made mistakes. And if you go home and think, please don't let anybody discover that. Please don't. That you'll end up not sleeping. So just if you've got it wrong, say, I've got that wrong and I would like to put that right. Yeah.
One Northeast business, institution or place more people should know about. We take it as read that Hays Travel is one, but one other one.
Okay, in terms of a shining beacon for the region in a totally different industry, I'll go full circle and go back to a fish and chip shop called Coleman's. Coleman's is an astonishing place.
Is it called a temple?
Well, it has two. So the oldest one is in Ocean Road in South Shields. But before that, it was on the beach in South Shields. But it is an exceptionally clever proposition, a wonderful business, and they've just opened in Phoenix.
Yep.
If you happen to live on the wrong side of the river, you could always try going there.
As I live on the wrong side of the river, but I have been to the one Coleman's super temple.
I believe that proposition is scalable. And obviously, I like when you're talking about entrepreneurs to look at, have they got a good track record? It's the first thing. Are their books in good order? And could we scale this business?
We watch this space for an Irene Hays investment in Coleman's.
No, I don't think they need help from the likes of me. They're perfectly capable of running a fantastic business themselves. But it's I often, when I'm in there, and I'm in there a lot, I eat a lot of fish, think, wow, there's just tremendous
potential. Yeah. For our final question, what one thing should the region be braver about?
The fact that we have done a lot recently, despite everything that we have done, the perception nationally is still that we're a place where the dirty work gets done. And we need to be braver about telling that new story. Now, that's not an original thought, but it goes back to my point about being clear about what that coherent story is. And before you start coming up with some brand new off-the-shelf statement, making sure everybody's signed up to it and you haven't got the dissenting voices who are likely to chip away at that and don't chop and change it. So we need to reinvent the narrative and stick with it for 15, 20 years before we're ever going to change the perception of the few hundred years that have gone before that.
And is business a key part of telling the story, creating the...
Absolutely, yeah. Stories of success. And there are so many. There are so many in the region. I mean, when I was at the top 250 the other day, and I honestly, we didn't win, but we were not awarded the family business. I thought my work was done. So I took my shoes off under the table. And then we got to the very end. And then they said, and now for the Outstanding Achievement Award. And I had to dive under the table and find my shoes to put.
Very nice too. We've been complimenting those shoes.
But the pleasure I had at that event, just listening to the stories of the successes in our region, and just needs somebody to distill that and to pull out a couple of themes. And I could do that a little, just from listening to the types of businesses, the types of entrepreneurs, the type of innovation that we have in this absolutely fantastic region, and just hold a mirror up to that and stick with telling that story over a long period of time.
Well, thank you so much for telling your story to us, which is a channel for trying to get those stories out. And it's been absolutely fascinating. Some real hard, specific nuggets of learning for me. And I hope that comes across to our listeners as well. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for coming to Hays Travel and Sunderland.
Yes.